Welcome back to my channel. If you're a subscriber, if you are new, welcome. It's been a while. If you are seeing this video at any point close to when I put it up, we are during coronavirus time, and I am sheltering in place, just like I hope many and most of you are able to as well. I still get a lot of requests for videos, just put something up, just record something. So I did have a little bit more time nowadays to think about what is content that I would be interested in recording. And I thought, duh, my plants. Since being in this quarantine, I have been watching plant tour videos like crazy. I didn't know that was a genre of video. I think I stumbled upon it. Maybe somebody I'm subscribed to had one, and then YouTube started showing me all the plant tour videos. It's been a really peaceful thing to watch during these times, so I thought I could certainly share one as well. I do have a lot of plants. I am a newer plant mom. I'd say I really picked up with a lot of plant ownership around a year ago. I had plants before that, but I did have a lot of trouble keeping them alive, and I definitely wasn't as interested as I am now. So I'm gonna walk you guys around my place and show you the different plants. I've seen plant tours done a couple different ways. Sometimes people just take the plant and bring it into the camera and talk about it, and they sit there the whole time, but I actually like to see where people have plants in their place and the way that they use them to anchor or activate a space. So I like to see them where they are. I like to see how people have them styled. I like to see them in place. So this is probably all you're gonna see of me of the video. Otherwise, I'm gonna flip the camera and I'm going to show you guys where I have them. I'll share all the tips and tricks I know, but as I have said, I am a newer plant mom, so any and everyone feel free to jump down into the comments to let me know tips and tricks that you know as well. So I don't know exactly what all my plants are, depending on where I got it, how it was labeled. I may know what it was. Sometimes the label on there is like exotic succulent. Okay. So I've had to do a little bit of research and figure out what some of the plants are. There is an app that you can use. I have it downloaded, but I forget to use it all the time. And by the time I'm using this video, if I don't know what a plant is, I probably haven't used the app to identify it, but I do know that that's out there. So yeah, I'm gonna show you guys around. I'm really excited to talk about my plants and share them with you guys. And if you see anything else around my home that you're curious about or interested in, leave a comment and ask, and I can share what I know or remember about links or where I got various things. I'm not just gonna put them all in the description box because I have plants in 3 different rooms. So I'm gonna show you guys those 3 different rooms: my living room, my bedroom, and my kitchen. And yeah, let's just get into it because I've seen that these videos can get a little long. People get really excited when they start talking about their plants, so I don't want the intro to be too long. Lego. So this right here is my living room, which is the main space that has a lot of my plants. There are plants all around the room, and this is exactly how I like it. There is a huge light. There's a really large window that brings in a lot of light. So this is the optimal place for a lot of my plants. So this is where most of them are housed. I'm gonna start over here and move my way around. Down here, I have my MONSTERA deliciosa. This is a really popular tropical houseplant. I'm really glad I have one in my collection. I'd say it's a relatively easy plant to maintain. I was looking at some older pictures of when I first got her, and she was a lot more structured. She has definitely gone wild and grown in every which direction, and she takes up a lot of space without really being that full. So I did this morning when I was preparing for this video, I always had a stake in there. That's the stake right there. I tied it up a little bit to give her a little bit more structure because she was just reaching and falling almost in this direction. So that is my MONSTERA. This one needed a lot more water than I realized. One thing I will definitely caution and say is that I am a chronic underwaterer. If you have to err on the side of under or overwatering, I'm always gonna err on the side of underwatering, because if you overwater and drown your roots and get root rot, the plant can't repair its root system. It can snap back from being a little dry, so I'd rather it get a little bit drier than it likes to be and for me to observe it and to really scale up the watering from there versus overwatering, waterlogging, damaging the root system, and then trying to let it dry. So a lot of my plants have been underwatered for a while, and I'm now figuring out their optimal water levels and, you know, scaling it up from there. So my Monstera is definitely one of them. Moving up right here, I have a ZZ, really common houseplant, really resilient houseplant. There are a few plants I have that I've had since my last place that I lived. And if a plant made it through that place, I consider it very resilient. The ZZ is definitely one of them. I had this plant almost killed down to one stem. It wasn't getting enough light. I don't think it was getting enough water. It was just extremely neglected, which is interesting because these plants are pretty tolerant of neglect, and I still almost killed it in my last place. So here I have brought it back to life. It has tons of shoots, lots of little guys, lots of new guys. Like, the leaves are coming in darker now, which is a good sign that the plant has a lot of good nutrients and that its system is working well. So if you are the kind of person who would, you know, like to have plants but you don't want to do too much with them, ZZ's your girl. That's what this plant is. Right behind ZZ is a DIEFFENBACHIA, a DUMBCANE plant, and this used to be one plant. About a week ago, I believe, last week, I separated out one of them because I want to move one of them into my bedroom. So I separated it out, and I'm letting it acclimate out where it used to be, which is out here, before moving it to the bedroom, because the lighting, as you'll see, is very different in there. So I want its roots to kind of get over the shock from being separated. It is almost never not sprouting a leaf. Like, there's just always leaves coming out. Usually, if you can kind of see, there's two in there, one here now. Usually every single one has a leaf coming out. This one should put out another one soon because this yellow one that's still a little bit unfurling was new on this one. This stalk has this one. This stalk has this one. This one is always putting out leaves. I think the variegation is really pretty. I think it's a pretty plant, and it is a really simple one, so that's a really easy one if you guys are looking for easy plants. Moving over here, there is the first of my SANSEVIERIA, my snake plant. This isn't the first one I bought or owned, but it's just the first one in where I'm showing you guys. This one is super easy to me as well. Like, it tolerates a lot of neglect. I do have it in really good light, but it doesn't ask a lot of me. It doesn't need a lot of watering. I probably water it once a month. And it doesn't really show too many signs of not doing well with that. The edges aren't browning. I don't have any tips that are really doing poorly. Of course, you're staring right at this one, but that's how it was when I got it. So this one is a nice one. And snake plants, I have 3 different varieties in here. They are really great air purifiers, so I like to have them around. I like the way they look, so I would definitely say this one is in the easy category. Moving over here, this one is a flapjack plant. I don't know its scientific name, but my mom gave that one to me, and I was really ambivalent about it at first. It wasn't my favorite plant, but it's really taken off and thrived, and I think I actually really like it in this pot because the gray tones play off of the newer leaves that are like frosted bluish gray, and I think it ties the whole thing together, and it's become one of my favorites. When I first got it, when my mom gave it to me, when my mom first gave me this plant, it only had 3 of these. Now there's 5. Like, there's another one coming in there. There's, oh my gosh, I think I just broke a leaf, but there's another one in there as well. So it's really taken off. It is very low maintenance. I let it get really dry between waterings. I probably water it once a month, and that's about that. Like I mentioned before, it comes in with this frosting on the leaves. Then as it matures, or if you touch it, you will wipe it off and it gets a little bit more green. I like to see all of the tones, so I try to handle it as little as possible so that the frosting stays there as long as, you know, as long as it's naturally there. Moving up, here is my neon pothos. This one has been an interesting one. I think pothos are supposed to be pretty easy, and it kind of is, but I've struggled with this one. I hear mixed reviews about the kind and type of water it likes. There are definitely some brown spots from when I was underwatering it because people kept telling me pothos don't like a lot of water, so I would almost never water it, but this one's actually pretty thirsty. This is one of the plants that definitely tells me when it wants water. Its leaves are very upright, strong, stiff. They snap when it is well watered and it's got a good moisture level. When it gets thirsty, it's so dramatic. They all just flop over. It gets really saggy, really wrinkled. You give it water and then it just perks right back up again. So this one, I think I figured out its watering level now. Maybe some of the crispy spots are from when I used to underwater it. I did just repot it last week, I believe. All of its roots were growing out of the drainage hole, so I definitely knew it was time. When I got this one, it was really small. I didn't actually know, I think it was my first pothos, so I didn't actually even know they vined. So vines are coming in like crazy. It's gonna start trailing. My place is not usually this girly. I wouldn't have coupled these two together. Normally I would have gone a little bit more neutral, but this was the only pot I ordered in this set that fit this size nursery pot. So this is, you know, you just have this really girly moment. For almost all of my plants, I do keep them in nursery pots that go into these decorative pots. It's really common for people to say they can't find decorative pots with drainage holes. I would never and definitely not recommend putting a plant in a pot that doesn't have a drainage hole. But one super simple way around that is just to put it in a grower or nursery pot and then put that in the decorative pot. So this way I can take it out, water it, let the water fall off, and it won't be standing in there and getting root rot. This is another one that is always growing. There are always lots of new leaves coming in. It's pretty happy. It's pretty close to the window, but it's in bright indirect light, so it's, you know, it's a happy guy. Part of me, like the type A part of me, wants to cut off any browned leaves or ones with brown spots, but plants are another way that I kind of get my type A-ness under control, and I remind myself that it is nature and it is imperfectly perfect and to just leave it alone. Everything doesn't have to be perfect all the time. Right next to this is another pothos. This is a silver splash leaf pothos, I believe. It trails so beautifully. I'll try to insert a picture that I found of it when I first got it. It was a tiny little guy with leaves that didn't quite, I mean, they definitely didn't fall this far. They were beginning to trail out. I really like this one. I really like this one where I have it. I kind of use it as a corner piece on this console. This one is super simple. This is another one that tells me when it needs water because the leaves will start to curl like this. I personally can't only go by the top leaves because the top leaves are usually curly, whether I've just watered it or not. If I begin to check down the vines and other leaves were starting to curl up, then I would know that it was time for water. And I try to watch it pretty closely. Stepping back, that is Stubbs, and he is an offshoot from Ruby, and that is a rubber plant. I've always wanted a rubber plant. That's definitely on my bucket list, and I actually have ordered it since the quarantine. So there are plant shops online that are shipping plants. Ruby I got from Home Depot. As I'll say throughout, I've gotten plants from a lot of different places. I've gotten them from hardware stores, I've gotten them from nurseries, I've gotten them from little bougie plant shops in DC. I've had a mixed bag experience. I've never had anything really terrible happen, but I will say more often than not, the hardware store plants I've gotten have had bugs. So it's okay, but it's really important when you bring a new plant into your home to make sure that you are cleaning it of any bugs, remediating it of them before you put them around your other plants and before you potentially bring infestations into your home. So right when I get a new plant, especially a hardware store plant, I spray the soil down with neem oil, water it, wipe down all the leaves. usually with a mild soap, get any webs, check for bugs or anything like that. So that's what I did with Stubbs and Ruby. Stubbs was another little branch offshoot on Ruby, and I thought, I mean, this plant's gonna acclimate anyway. Maybe I should just take it off right now and let it acclimate in its own pot. So I did that. I think Stubbs is doing okay. At first, this leaf was like right when I repotted, like just straight down. Stubbs wasn't really having it. I could tell he wasn't really that happy, but that leaf is starting to lift and pick back up. So I think he's trying to make it. I'll let you guys know. But rubber plant has been one that I wanted for such a long time. Its leaves are just so gorgeous. It's very sculptural. I love it, and I've always really wanted one. Of course, you see there is a leaf coming in here. This leaf came in since it got here last week, and so I think Ruby is doing okay. I think she's pretty happy. Once you start seeing leaves come in and new leaves come out, that kind of indicates that the root system is in a good stasis and the plant is doing well. So it's light and it's water, everything are okay with Ruby. Just waiting for Stubbs mostly to let that leaf out and then maybe do another shoot, and then I'll know that he's okay. Stepping back is my bird of paradise, which is this big, huge banana leaf one. This is one that has been with me since my old place, so I guess I'd have to consider it pretty resilient. This plant I have brought to the brink of non-existence so many times. Obviously, you see there's lots of like brown tips. The splits don't necessarily indicate dryness because sometimes it just uncurls split. But this one, oh my gosh, it has grown so much. Its leaves are getting really big. I looked back at a picture of when I first got it. Its leaves were a lot smaller. It had a lot more leaves because, as you see, I've gone in and chopped off damage. At one point, I underwatered it to the point where it, like, its stem started snapping because it has these huge, really heavy leaves, and if it doesn't have the water it needs, they get too heavy for the stems, and these are really intended to collect the light, and so it needs a lot of water, and I didn't realize that. So I've had a lot of leaf loss, and I've pruned back a lot of it. I almost let this plant go. I was just so over it. It is from my last place and my last place in life as well, so I just was never really sure about this plant. But as soon as I trimmed back all of the snapped leaves, gosh, there's probably like 5 of them, which is so sad, it started shooting out new leaves, which you see there and there. So I said, okay, she wants to hang on. I'm gonna try to nurse her back to health. And now that I know a little bit more about the watering schedule and amount that this plant likes, I'm trying to rock with her. This little funny guy, I miss this down here. I don't know what it is. I think this is one that says like tropical plant. Yep, number 4 tropical. So I don't know what it is. I could use the app and find it. I probably will after this video and put it on. Just a funny little guy. I had it in my bedroom, but the light was way too dim there. It is obviously a tropical variety. Likes a fair amount of water. It's pretty low maintenance. It just chills down here, and yeah. Back in this corner is the first snake plant that I ever owned. I did have this one at my last place as well, so to me that falls in the resilient variety. Snake plants are super low maintenance. They don't need a lot of attention. They don't need a ton of light. They don't really need that much water. There was definitely a point where I was watering this plant like once every 3 to 6 months just cause, but it kept growing. So I figured I wasn't doing anything too wrong and that it really liked very dry soil because it didn't, respond that poorly to my neglect. There was one point where I think it was around 6 months, and that was far too long. So it started to show signs of dryness. It did get these like, I don't know, these weird like dots all over it. I can still see it in some places, like, no, that's something else, but like that. Almost all the leaves started to have it, and then I watered it, and most of them went away. So I definitely think I chronically underwatered this poor guy, but it has gotten really big from where I had it, and it's still rocking with me. I love to have a nice big snake plant for the air quality, and I think that it's happy. Moving over here, I have a few plants on the actual air handler unit and in the window. This one was a gift from a friend, which I feel terrible about that it looks this way when it was gifted to me, but I had a really hard time with this plant. It had a pretty big infestation when I got it, so I really struggled to get it healthy again. It had spider mites that I just, oh my gosh, almost daily I had to wash its leaves with soap and water. I was trying to use, I think I was newer to the neem oil then, which is how some of these leaves got damaged. You really want to keep the neem oil on the soil, especially if leaves are delicate, or you have it in a sunny place, because it will just burn and just gnarl them. So I had a lot of learning to do around this plant, and it didn't put out another leaf for like a year, and now it did. And this one has a hole in it because of me, not because of any bug or something with the plant. A leaf was coming in like it is there, and I was so curious about it because I hadn't seen a leaf come out of this plant in like a year, that I took and tried to look at it, and I literally took a chunk out of it with my nail. So that's why that hole is there in this brand new leaf, first leaf it put out in a year, but that's okay. It's got more coming, and I'm excited. This leaf is coming out, and then that's another shoot where another leaf will come out. So this one, I think finally after around a year, I'm learning and it's starting to forgive me and recover from the shock from the bugs and everything else that happened with it. This is the third kind of Sansevieria I have. It is a snake plant, and it is a moonlight Sansevieria, because it has these like beautiful white leaves. I got this one from Trader Joe's actually, and it did come in pretty crispy. So like how this looks, it's sort of how I got it. So I've been nursing it back to health since getting it that way. I did have to learn it a little bit as well, because I think it might like a little bit more water than the other kind of Sansevierias. I just am obsessed with these like white striated leaves. It's definitely one of my bucket list plants, and once I get it up to like really good health, it's gonna be one of my favorites. My poor jade. I didn't actually know this was a jade. I didn't know what it was. It's one of those ones with a funny label on it that's like tropical #2. So I do now know it is a jade succulent. Anytime I hear or know succulent, I just think don't water it, which is not the case. I think succulents actually need a little bit more water than most people think. So I did just water jade today. Her soil dries out really fast, as it should for a succulent, but oh man, I brought this one to a couple inches of its life as well. But now those two new little leaves came in this past week. If you look really closely, I don't know how it's gonna come across on the camera, you can see a couple more little buds coming in a few places. So I'm gonna nurse this jade back to health and get it going, because I saw a picture of someone on Instagram who had like a really full bushy jade, and I thought it was so beautiful. And so I'm paying more attention to her and spending time figuring out her needs. Over on this side, these are my pruning shears. This is a Peperomia obtusifolia, which is actually a baby rubber plant. So this is, I had this one before Stubbs or Ruby. Stubbs or Ruby, like I said, I got last week. This one I've had since my last place, so I do consider this one resilient. It used to just be like 3 or 4 little leaves in the soil, and now it has gone up to, you know, more like a little tree-like formation. It did not put out any leaves for the better part of a year, but now it has multiple coming in different places. It is, you know, trying to make it to, I think this one is another one that needed a lot more water than I realized. I think these leaves are from underwatering times when I let it get crispy, because I thought it was in the succulent family. I think it might be, I'll check and see, but so I thought don't water it. But now I've been upping the water slowly by slowly, and it did start putting out leaves, so I think I'm finding its optimal water levels. This one is brand new as well. This one is is this my newest one? It might be one of my newest ones. It came last week too, from a plant shop in San Diego, I wanna say. Her name is Selah, and she's a string of pearls. She came in so bushy and full. If you look, there's just new beads everywhere. I am obsessed. It is one of my bucket list plants. I've always wanted a string of pearls, and now I have one. Since I've only had her for a week, I'd say I'm probably still learning her. I can't check the soil because it is so dense with these beads. I can't get in there without knocking them off. So I put this one on a watering schedule. It said optimally they like around 2-week watering. So I just set a reminder to water her every 2 weeks since I can't really check the soil like I normally would in my other plants. So every 2 weeks she'll get a good thorough watering. Last in my living room, right above my TV, are 2 other little plants. There is a string of beads, I always get those confused, and a little cacti up there. This cacti I do almost nothing with. It is just that, just little cacti up there. And this string of beads I have had a bit of a time with. It started trailing really fast. Its trails were way longer than this. I didn't actually put 2 and 2 together that these beads are this plant's leaves. Like, I'm sure there's somebody like, what? Obviously, but I didn't think of them as leaves, so I had it sitting somewhere. I actually had it where I have Selah right there, and its trails were going all the way down there, and I don't think its leaves were getting enough light, so the trails got a little sparse. I just trimmed them back this morning, actually, and what you do with various strings, string of beads, string of pearls, string of turtles, you drape them over damp soil and they begin to root. So I cut off some of the more sparse trails and then put them up in the soil. I'll show you guys what that looks like. Hold on, because I did just water and do some with it today. So it looks like this. It was really, really sparse up top. So I did take and loop some of the chains back around so that the soil wasn't just like, like looking all bald. Lots of new beads coming in now. So I'd say this one is rocking with me. Obviously I have it above the TV, so it's only gonna be able to trail so long before its leaves are falling in front of the TV. So I'll decide what to do about it at that time. I might put it somewhere a little bit lower where more of the soil can get sun. Just trying to figure it out. I just moved this one here probably 2 weeks ago, so I'm seeing how it likes it. I'm trying to see how the light quality is, like how it comes in there and whether it's getting enough. I do think this one likes indirect light, so I think it might be an okay place for it, so I'm just watching her. And that is all the plants in the living room. This is the space. I'm commonly sitting there looking out over here, and this is the exact view that I love to have. I love looking at all of these amazing plants all the time, so that's how I've situated the room. Okay, so from here, we turn around and we head towards the bedroom. And obviously everything is not super neat right now. Like I said, we are in the middle of the quarantine. I do have some items I'm trying to donate, but obviously the world isn't open, so I just put this in last week, this bar cart that I plan to use as a plant station. So it doesn't have a ton of plants right now. As of a week ago, I've never had any plants in my bedroom that I've been able to keep alive. But since it is spring, summer now, it's getting a lot better light in here. And I am learning of plants that, like Monty, my money plant, they like bright indirect light. Monty cannot go in the sun. This is what happens when Monty goes in the sun. Its leaves scorch. Like, it literally looks like I took a torch to it. This is what all the leaves look like if I put Monty in direct light. So I wanted something in a more diffuse place that was next to a window, but not in its rays. So I check multiple times a day, especially once the sun starts to move to the western part of the sky, and I make sure Monty is not in the light. That part is from when I had Monty in the kitchen. I think it grew and like one of its leaves stuck out into the window and it just scorched that easy. This thing used to just like, all its leaves would just fall to the ground. They would turn white. My mom gave me this one and she told me it was easy. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, this one is always like super finicky, but once I learned what it wanted, I would say that this is a pretty easy and low maintenance plant now too. So that was my first foray into moving them into my bedroom as of like a week ago, and I'm so excited. Right now I have the shelf a little styled because I need to get some more plants to go in here or wait for some of my propagations to begin to grow, and I plan to put those in here, but otherwise I just put a couple other things in there as a candle and oil diffuser. This is one string of the silver splash leaf pothos that I showed you in the other room, and it is in there just propagating. Hold on, where do I have you guys? I don't know if this is gonna pick this up. There is a little bit of a root coming in, so I think that one's gonna do okay. I'm trying to decide which of them I want to take and pot and which I would just like to leave in their little jars to grow that way. But that is what that is. That's an oil diffuser. That is a ZZ. And this one I was looking at a picture of yesterday, and this one was way tinier when I first got it. And it's not even big now, but it was a lot smaller than this, and it only had like maybe 2 or 3 shoots. Now it has like dozens. I checked actually right before this video. This soil there's not an ounce of moisture in it. I probably haven't watered this plant in weeks. So this is a ZZ. There was another ZZ out in the living room. So like I said, if you're looking for a low maintenance plant, because like seriously, how are its leaves still so dark and rich? And let me see if y'all, like, here's how bad I am. You hear that crunch? That's just dusty soil. So I am gonna water that one. I actually wanted to show you guys something, so that was why I hadn't watered it before, but it is, you know, thriving. 1/2 of this plant cart, probably right where that goes, can get the direct light in the afternoon, and then that half where I have Monty doesn't. So that's how I plan to station them. Any plants that like brighter and can handle direct light, I'll put them on this side of the bar cart. Any that I have that are indirect only, I'll put on this side. And this is my newest snake plant. This is probably around the size of the other one when I got it. It's from Home Depot, and I really wanted a snake plant in here because of the air purifying qualities that I mentioned, to get that good sleep. And that's it. That's actually all that I have in my bedroom. Then from the living room, we walk around here into the kitchen, which is where I have my experimentation area. Oh my gosh. I guess I'll start over here. This is an avocado plant. I think I saw online that you could take the seeds and do something with them and grow a plant, and that is exactly what I did. I had them sitting on water and they were rooted, and that was when these big leaves came out, and then I took and put it in soil, and it definitely had an acclimation period. Like when I put it in soil, all these big kind of elephant ear leaves, like how they're poking out like that right now, they all just went, they were just like pointing downwards, like it wasn't having it. I did learn when you do the transition from water to soil, you need to make sure to keep the soil pretty moist at all times. Me being a chronic underwaterer, I thought that it wasn't gonna want that, but it does. So now that I keep the soil moist during this acclimation period, it started snapping out tons of new leaves. So this hadn't put out any new leaves when I moved it from water to soil, but now it's got like 10 new leaves coming in, so I know that its roots have acclimated to the soil. When I keep the soil a little bit moister, it seems good to go, and I am, you know, happy that this guy is happy. A note, I'm fairly certain this will not put out avocados because it would need to be pollinated with a female avocado plant, and since it's inside and we are not in a hemisphere that has avocado plants, it won't put out any avocados. I just really liked its big elephant ear leaves, so I just wanted something with a little bit of foliage, and that was free. So, you know, have you some avocado toast and then get a plant out of it. Back there is a little propagation area for this same silver splash leaf pothos. This is a string I took off of the other one when I first got it and planted it here. It used to be really short. I was looking at pictures again yesterday, like it only hung to about here, and now it goes all the way down and commonly links under the radiator because it's so long that it's touching the floor. So what I did want to do was take this and no, I think I wanted it like this. Hold on, I'm trying to do this on camera with one hand, but I did want to make sure that I got this one a little bit up again since I'm obviously doing the most, like, because I'm trying to talk and do this with one hand and make sure what I'm doing is on the camera. I wanted to lift it up a little bit, kind of like this. I'll play with it and get it the way that I want it, but the leaves need their light too, so I wanted to bring it up a little bit and make sure that it wasn't trailing too far on the ground, that it wasn't growing under there. So it has a little bit of light, and yeah. But so jumping all over the place a little bit, that is a string of the same plant as this, that if you can see, it is growing roots. So I put that in probably 2 weeks ago, cut up a vine and put it in there. So that one I think will be really happy, and I'll be able to plant that probably in the next couple of weeks. I want at least a couple of inches of roots, and if that's 2 weeks worth, double or triple, that'll probably be good. So in the next couple weeks or month, I'll plan to put these leaves into soil. Skipping over on purpose, that this is more of the same silver splash leaf pothos. This is one that I did plan to just see if I could grow it in water and let it vine. So I took the end of a vine that already had the piece of which that it just keeps growing out of. Sorry, running guy. And so this one I just put in a couple days ago, so it won't have any roots or anything yet. This is one from a vine that I had in the bathroom, and it fell, so its vine got damaged, so I took and cut it up in hopes of saving it and having another string. This is my aloe plant. Aloes like more water than I realized as well. This one got so odd. It turned, like, if you see the color of that tip, it started turning red like that. And one time I went to Vegas last year for work, about a year ago. I got super sunburned, so I had cut a couple different pieces of the aloe to try to use on my sunburn, and it smelled like just burning gasoline almost. Like, I was like, what is going on with this plant? Like, it wasn't green anymore, it was like really red, and if you cut it and let the aloe out, it just smelled like, ugh, toxic. So I was like, I think this one needs a little more water. So I give it more water now. It almost always has a new leaf coming in. It grows very slow. So yeah, now that I've been trying to adjust this water level, which has just been within the past probably month, it's a lot greener and looks a lot happier, because it was not happy. This is the soil from that that string of pothos that fell and got damaged, the one that I put in there. It still has the roots in there, and I imagine its root system is still healthy since it's the vine that got damaged. So I just keep this soil moist and see if it'll pop anything else out, which I'm sure it will at some point. These guys, so what's happening here, I was creating little greenhouses, and I leave them in the greenhouses for around 5 days, and then it is time now to take the containers off. You don't want to leave them on forever, not even forever, but like all of the time, because the soil can get moldy. The plants do need air circulation. So this is a string of turtles. My gosh, definitely a bucket list plant of mine. Was so excited to get this. I got these clippings off of Etsy a couple weeks ago, and they just came a couple days ago, so brand new to this one. What you do with any of these strings, like I mentioned with the others, is you just drape them across moist soil with the leaves up, because what you can barely see, there are nodes on each one of those, and so on the other side of the leaf there's a node, and that's what needs to grow into the soil to create roots. I see lots of little turtles coming in, so I imagine it's okay. It just came in a few days ago, like I said, so I don't think it has any roots yet, but it seems like it's doing all right, and that it should happily grow. Here are a few other propagations. Let me see if I can get this off gently. So this is my string of beads. It is from that same string of beads out in the living room. I think I just took a string that fell off and put it over this damp soil, and so this one's doing pretty well. This is another one where the trails grew out really fast, and they were dangling really far down here, and then they weren't getting enough light down there, so they got really sparse. So I took and brought those trails back up onto the soil and back up into the light, and then it did start sprouting out new beads again. So this one seems to be doing pretty well. This one is another baby SANSEVIERIA, the first one I showed you guys out in the living room. I noticed one time I watered that plant, which probably meant it had been a month or two, it had a tiny, like you could maybe see like that over the soil, maybe like, and it wasn't this because its leaves grow upwards. It was closer to down here, and I just saw something sticking out of the soil, and I was like, oh, a new plant. So I took and separated it off. Once I got under the soil, I saw that it had a lot more underneath than I thought. This is a new leaf. That's a new leaf. In there is a new leaf. It didn't have really any of this. It was just kind of like probably right here, and it had just a little nub. And so since putting it in the greenhouse, it's really taken off growing. So I know this one's good. I know its root system is good. It's putting out lots of new tiny little leaves. So this one's happy. And then this one is a little offshoot from Selah, the string of pearls from out there. It fell off in shipping, and it was in the bag that it came in, so I just draped it over soil to see if I could get it to grow. And I do see all these little beads coming in, which is just so, it's only surprising to me because, let's see, it's hard for you guys to tell scale because you're looking at this, but like, look at this. It's like the size of one digit of your finger practically. It's a tiny, tiny, tiny little jar. But the reason I wasn't sure if it was gonna root was because I've started using a different soil mix where it's the same mix you see here. So there's some fir bark, there's perlite and vermiculite, and some moisture control soil. So it's a good mix, it's a good draining mix, but in a pot this small, like here, like one wood chip practically covers the whole surface. So I probably could have stood to not put the wood chips in there, but I didn't really think, I wasn't sure the beads really had enough soil to even get into, because it's like those wood chips were taking up so much of the space. But I don't know, obviously it's got pearls coming in, so it must be doing okay. And so I thought I might have another tiny little string of pearls from Selah. Oh, yeah, I just completely skipped over that one. This is Henry. He is a gift from an ex. He's still hanging on. Henry, that is, not the ex. I pretty much just neglect it. I love this jar. This jar's from my best friend. I literally probably water that once every 3 to 6 months. That's all there is to say there. And so this is the kitchen. So this gets really strong morning light as well. So I figure for budding and growing plants, it's pretty decent. It's a small space, so it stays pretty warm in here. I figure it's just a really good area for like a greenhouse type setup. Most of the guys in here are little tiny guys, like, you know, the little trio right there and the roots and the propagation. So it's just a nice area for me to learn about the plants and see what different ones like, and to see how I can get them to grow. And that's it, that's all my plants. I am slightly terrified that this video is gonna be like an hour long. I watch really long plant tours myself, but those people have like over 100 plants, and I don't have over 100 plants. So it kind of doesn't need to be that long. I'll try to edit it down as much as I can, but thanks for sticking along and checking out my different plants and seeing what I've got growing. I'm really excited to keep getting more plants, keep learning, and hopefully have this lush jungle in my living room. So I am such a plant lover. I call all my plants emotional support plants because they have gotten me through a lot, and they have also been really great during these times of isolation. So I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to me talk about my plants. Hopefully it was interesting. If it made you think of any other video ideas that are along a similar vein, they don't have to be about plants, but anything else you'd like to hear about, let me know, and I'll see what I can do about filming. Yeah, I was happy to pop on and say hi and tell you what I've been up to and what's been bringing me joy nowadays. So I hope that you guys are all doing really well. Let me know how you're doing in the comments below and what you guys have been up to, and maybe I'll see you again sometime soon. Bye.